just sat down and had a conversation with one of my heroes. Man, I was nervous. Jenny May Clarkson.
I've been able to represent my country in 2 different sports. Could have been 3.
Someone who I've watched on the news and who's interviewed me countless times. I've said some outlandish things on The Breakfast Show.
Yes, I was there when you said that. Went, wow, that's going to make the news.
We spoke about everything. Growing up in a little town, making the Silver Ferns, becoming a cop, then getting into radio and breakfast TV. She's a hero and an icon of the TV, but what it was like to step away.
What I do now isn't about me. My why is about what the legacy is that I'm going to leave behind for our kids, right?
She spoke about the sacrifices she made in order to be a success in her career. And that's what so many people forget, actually. You know, when they see this person on the TV or they see this person on social media, what they don't see is all the sacrifice and the hard work, not just from her, but also her husband and her family. She spoke about her full immersion Te Reo journey, her conversations with her father, how proud her dad was.
I'm Māori. I made that statement. I put my stake in the ground when I received my kauae. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I can't be inclusive of everyone else.
This conversation is amazing. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Jenny May Clarkson, enjoy. Unfiltered is produced by the team at Fanaticals and we are part of the Acast network. Jenny May, thank you so much for joining me. I always get so nervous interviewing people like yourself that have been in the media that are interviewing everyone else.
Well, I'm nervous because I'm not used to being on this side.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I know this podcast is pretty amazing and you can get deep pretty quickly. And so to be part of it, actually, it's just, I'm really grateful. So thank you for the invitation.
No, thank you for coming on. It's, yeah, you know, I've been interviewed by you a few times on breakfast. Sometimes I say something, or saying some...
Passionate. You're passionate, bro. That's what it is. Passion.
I think you interviewed me at the food bank when I was there and I said Wayne Brown doesn't care about poor brown people.
Yes, I was there when you said that. Went, wow, that's going to make the news. Hey, but at the same time, I was like, good on you. You're speaking your truth.
Yeah.
And, you know, going back to my days of doing breakfast television, that's where I felt my superpower was being able to allow the platform that I was grateful to be part of to actually, you know, have others' voices and being in those kinds of conversations. There's nothing in there that I took for granted, that's for sure. You know, and I often think about this. I wasn't there to change a platform. I was there to actually try and broaden the platform so that others could see themselves within it. So, yeah, it was a time that I am grateful for, but I'm also grateful for being on the other side of it now, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I'd come on into the studio, it was always nice to see you, one of us, you know, but I knew that
I get
I'd be okay there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. And yeah, and that's what I loved about having the opportunity to do that my face was familiar, that it was a safe space, because I know that it hasn't necessarily been that way. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I think about my dad. Like, I lost my dad seven or so years ago now. It's funny, because I don't know exactly how many years, but I know it was a few years ago, and I guess I tend not to try and focus too much on when we lost him. But one of the things that I have learnt from my dad and didn't really understand how powerful it was until he passed. And, you know, in those moments of grief when you're sitting and you're thinking about the conversations that you've had, the lessons that you've learnt. And my dad was always about inclusion. There were decisions that he made and things that he did that I didn't understand at the time. But I look back now and I go, wow, that was just my dad saying it's okay for everybody to have a space. And one of the simplest examples that I can give you is my dad and I having a conversation in Te Reo Māori. He would come up to my house. I was on my own when I was learning. And he would come up in the weekends and we'd sit there and we'd just talk in te reo Māori. Sometimes my sentences, I couldn't actually string anything together, but he'd just keep encouraging me. So by the end of that year of doing total immersion, I could sit and I could have this conversation with my dad, and it felt incredible. It was something that I didn't even know that I needed until I was in it and conversing with him, and we're speaking in our native tongue. Beautiful moments. And I remember sitting outside our house under the porch my brother built and talking with my dad, and my mum walks out of the kitchen, sits down behind us, and he feels her presence, and he says to me in Māori, we need to start speaking in English. And I was like, well, why? You know, I'm in it, man. I'm in the moment. I'm having this time with my dad. And he says, because you can't understand what we're talking about. And I was like, well, that's not my problem. That's her problem. But he went back into English. And, you know, I reflect on that moment and go, I know exactly what he was doing. He was saying, we need to be able to include everybody in this conversation. And it was such a simple example, but it's one that I hold on to dearly now whenever I'm doing anything that I'm doing. You know, yes, you can. I'm Māori. I made that statement. I put my stake in the ground when I received my kauae. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I can't be inclusive of everyone else.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of that, and that is something that I continue to try and do. You know, for me, that's part of my dad's legacy and what I can give to the world as well.
When you got the your kauae, was there any pushback from the the TVNZ or the public?
No, none whatsoever from within the organisation itself. And it wasn't their decision ultimately. Yeah. I went to my boss that sat above me. She was pumped, so excited for me, and just wanted to know everything, you know, about the decision, all of these things. And then she took it to the bosses, which then went to the board, and there was none. There was no pushback. I guess for me, I'd kind of thought maybe I'll lose my job. I don't know. You know, you start to think kind of big disastrous scenarios. Colleagues, everybody was amazing within the building. The public, there was some pushback, and I understand that. You know, for one way, a show has looked this way, and then all of a sudden you've got me coming in and they see me as one thing, and then all of a sudden there is no misunderstanding about who I am or who I choose to be. And that's okay. I'm still me.
Yeah.
I just look slightly different. And so, there was pushback. But again, it was never about anybody else but me. And because I was strong in my why and in who I am, then none of it mattered, actually. Yeah. I won't say it didn't impact me at times when you see, you know, different comments that come through about you having a barcode and all of those sorts of things. It doesn't mean to say in those moments I kind of, you know, you really feel upset and sad, but I choose not to dwell in that because, again, it's going back to my why I did it, and who I am. And I'm proud of who I am and who I am becoming. And so a lot of those comments didn't stop me from doing, you know, what I wanted to do.
Yeah. And what happened at the end there with TVNZ?
It was a mutual decision. Yeah, between the broadcaster and I. I mean, ultimately, it was my time, Dave. I was there for 6 years. I was exhausted.
Yeah.
And it's now I'm on the other side of it. I'm so glad I'm out of it. Yeah. Really, really I am. When you are getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, Monday to Friday, you're working 6 days a week because on a Sunday you're preparing for the shows that are coming up the next day. Something's got to give at some point. It was a lot of pressure that was being put on my family. I was missing out on a lot with my sons, didn't realise how much I was missing out on until I was back in it and had the privilege of being there in the morning when my sons leave for kura and giving them a hug and saying, I love you, have an amazing day, go and be awesome. Every single morning I do that. What a privilege it is to send my boys off into the world knowing that they're loved and that they walk out the door with a smile on their face. Whatever happens in their day, you know, I can't control that, but I can control how they walk out the door and then how they're received when they walk back in the door. And during my time on breakfast, I wasn't there when they were going to kura, because they were 9 when I finished at TVNZ, and I had been on breakfast for 6 years.
Wow.
So I hadn't seen them walk out the door for the time that I was on breakfast. And again, I was tired, I was exhausted, so, you know, I didn't have a lot to give to them, and I'm pretty sure everybody felt like they were walking around on eggshells, because in one moment I could be going off. My sons come to me and they ask me about something, and in that moment I'm kind of like, okay, yep, I can answer that question, but when there's a repeat follow-up and a follow-up, as kids do, then that's when I couldn't cope, because I had all of this work that I needed to get done, still trying to run a household, you know, with our whānau, hold it together with work. And so they copped it. And again, I'm grateful for the privilege of being able to broadcast breakfast and be part of TVNZ. But that said, now I'm on the other side of it. I have the privilege of actually being there for my family. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, you know, hearing you talk about, you know, your young boys, your 2 boys, and sending them out, because I think I'm guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like in this life of just being super busy and helping others and pushing, trying to make money and all these things.
But don't we do it for our kids, eh? That's the thing. We do all of those things for them at the cost of, you know, the little moments, I guess.
Yeah.
But we've got to choose what those moments are, because I don't think it's fair also to say I'm not doing my best, or I'm not a good enough parent because I'm not there in the morning to send my children off. I think there's always going to be a compromise.
Yeah.
And it's actually saying to yourself, yeah, I might not be there in the morning, or I might not be there in the evening, but in those moments where it matters, I'm there.
Yeah.
I think we can do that. And I think we just need to stop being so hard on ourselves, because we're doing the very best that we bloody well can for them. Ultimately, it is for them. But as a result of that, I always say this, you know, if we say yes to one thing, it means that we're saying no to something else. So if I'm saying yes, I've got to go and do that gig or whatever it is, then I'm saying no to whatever it is. That's time with my babies, that's time with my husband, that's time with, you know, or time for myself. And so when we're making those decisions, we've got to weigh that up. And if it needs to be this one here, because actually we need some frickin' money to come in the house, then that's where it is, because ultimately we do it for them.
Yeah.
It's never for ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I look back now and I go, man, I'm 52. I've had an amazing life. I've been able to represent my country in 2 different sports. Could have been 3, but I didn't.
What was the third one?
This is me backing myself. I have no idea. But I was all right at basketball. I don't know whether I could have, but, you know. I've had an amazing broadcasting career. I've managed to land a superstar husband and have 2 beautiful boys and 2 beautiful stepdaughters. And I look at all of those things and I go, man, I've had an amazing life. What I do now isn't about me. My why is about what the legacy is that I'm going to leave behind for our kids, right? But also showing them that you don't have to do what everybody else does. Actually, there's a different way of doing things.
Where'd you grow up, sis? Are you from Manipoto?
Yeah. Hey, whanaunga. I grew up in a small town called Piopio, which is So this is how I explain it to people. Hamilton, going south. Te Awamutu, Aotearoa, Te Kuiti, Piopio.
Oh, wow.
And usually the only reason you go through it is if you're heading towards New Plymouth.
Yep.
That's it. Otherwise, if you're heading down to Taupo or further south, you normally turn off about 10 k's before us. Yeah, so I grew up in Piopio, youngest of 6. Mum still lives there in the house that, I was raised. And I go home whenever I possibly can or have my mum come up to spend time with us in Tāmaki Makaurau. So, yeah, I love going home when I can.
Yeah, my mum's from Benidale.
Crack up. My sister's husband is from Benidale. Yeah, so and that's where they live actually on the farm out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the middle of nowhere, bro. Benidale.
Yeah, I've never been there. I've never been there.
Well,
or maybe I have. Maybe I've driven through and didn't realise.
well, potentially there's like there's a shop, a cafe.
Yeah.
Is there anything else there? I don't think that there is.
But yeah, I have not. Maybe when I was younger with the Benidale,
Yeah.
I haven't been back.
It's interesting, because I'd be interested to know how you felt when you do eventually go back, and whether you feel that connection.
I felt it when I went to our marae Te Kōpua.
Yeah.
And I felt something then.
Yeah.
And then going, one of our family was, who I didn't know was family. He was, now I know why he was offering to pick me up and drive me all around. But he showed me our maunga. And it was amazing to see.
Yeah.
Like when you go through it?
It's a connection, eh? It's because it's within us.
Yeah.
I remember doing the same because my mum, she won't mind me talking about this because I talked about it in my book, but she was given away just at a few days old, back in the day. And where she was born, the woman there, Edith Davis, raised her because my mother's biological mum rang back after a couple of days and said, look, I can't have that baby. And so she said, well, she's got a home so she can stay here. And so Edith Davis raised my mother, but she was from up north, Ngāti Kahu. Now my mum tried to reconnect with her dad on a couple of occasions and he basically didn't want anything to do with her. And so that was a block for me, reconnecting with that side of my whānau. I was like, well, they didn't want my mother, so I'm not going back there. So I had this real stubborn attitude towards reconnecting with that side of my family. And it was actually a conversation that I had got into with another mate of mine. And same thing happened to her. But as she was telling her story, after a while, she said, sometimes we have to look beyond that one generation and look beyond that and see the good that came before that. And in that moment, it was just like a mic drop moment. I went, wow, all this time I've actually been punishing myself by not connecting to that side of the whānau because of what I perceived as, this one block, which was my grandfather. And in that moment, I went back to my mum and I said, right, Mum, I'm going to go up north. I want to take my sons up there. I want them to know who they are on that side of the whānau because, I can't deprive them of that knowledge, that information, that connection. Also, I was thinking, I don't want my sons to connect with somebody from up north in Ngāti Kahu and next minute there's a chemistry going on between them and I'm like, no, that's whānau, And I didn't want them to end up with one of their relatives that they didn't have any, knowledge about that's where they were from. So all of that, that reconnecting. And so when we went up there, there was definitely that feeling of, in some way, I belong here. And so again, whenever we go back up there, I'm always going past our marae, even if nobody's there, just, waving, going to the urupa to see my whanaunga, my tupuna that I never met, but I still have that connection with. And I make sure that my sons understand who they are connected with. And again, going back to that, it doesn't matter how I felt about it. Actually, I don't want to deprive my sons of knowing who they are and their connection to their whakapapa. And so, yeah, going up north, you definitely feel a connection to there, even though that wasn't somewhere that I grew up or had any idea of coming from. Yeah, so it's been a very cool journey being able to do that, heal for me, and then take my sons on that journey as well. Yeah.
And where did you go to school, sis?
There's only one school in Piopio. That's Piopio Primary and Piopio College.
Yeah.
That's it. And both of those schools still continue today, which is pretty cool. I think there were about 300 students when I was there. Yeah, because it's a farming community as well. Yeah, I mean, school was school, you know.
Was sport the way out for you, did you think?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I never saw myself as an academic. I was really lucky that I had a couple of teachers that saw something else in me. One saw leadership, one saw teaching, and they were encouraging of me in those spaces. But sport was definitely something I knew I was good at. It didn't really matter what I was doing. I was good at, whether it was tennis, whether it was, you know, and again, this is a school of 300 kids. I mean, you know, I was smashing it. But at the age of 10, I always knew that I was going to be a Silver Fern. I didn't want to be a Silver Fern. I was going to be a Silver Fern.
Wow.
Don't ask me where that came from or why. It was just something I knew to be true. And that came true when I was 23 and made my debut for the Silver Ferns. But yeah, sport played a huge part, you know, because, I mean, we learn so many lessons within sport, right? You have to get on with people that you don't necessarily choose to connect with or get on with. There's winning, there's losing. You know, again, how you lead, the words you say, how powerful they can be. So many different lessons. And again, with my sons, I'm like, I don't care if you don't make it in sport, but you will play sport or you will keep active, because I know how important that is. And so I think at the age of 15, I went to my first senior nationals. I was 14, turned 15. And I was really lucky to be surrounded by these amazing women who could see my talent and just nurtured that along the way. And I think I got a lot of when I got probably towards the end of my career, I had this really clear vision of what it was that I could offer to the younger players that were coming through. When you're in it, it's all about you. You know, there's ego, there's all sorts of things. You're thinking about how you're going to get to the top, and then once you get there, it's freaking hard to stay up there. So everything's about, for me, it was all about me. But then getting on the other side of things, and you kind of go, yeah, my career's coming to an end. I feel a little bit freer to play the way that I want. And that's when the gold for me started to happen, because as you know, when you're helping others, when you're serving others, you get that back tenfold in how you feel, how it makes you feel. And so those last years of me playing, all of it was about what is it from my experience and I can offer onto these younger players. And I learnt that from a very young age, like I say, from these amazing women that I was able to play alongside. At just a really, really young age. And then sport actually took me into Hamilton to Aotearoa when I left school. So I was left home at 16 and I was living in a flatting situation in Hamilton. I had no idea how to cook. How bad's this, bro? I remember having to ring my parents when I was 15. They'd gone away and I had to ring my mum and go, Mum, how do I cook spuds? She's like, just put them in a pot, make sure they're covered in water and, you know, put a knife in it and make sure they're soft before you do anything. Oh, okay. The only thing I could do then was fish fingers, and I think I burnt those. They left me at home on my own. And I, anyway, moved to Hamilton, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I had no clue about, you know, rent or how much things were going to cost. I was just this kid from Piopio that was just, you know, moving to the big smoke.
Yeah.
And so I was in Hamilton to do a sports science course, and actually it was where I met a couple of really good mates who are still good mates with me now. But anyway, there was a whole bunch of young athletes that would eventually go on to represent their country. So I did that for 2 years, and then when I was old enough, because I got in trouble with the police when I was at school.
Oh, what happened there?
Well, me and my mates, this is how dumb it is. So my parents were managing the local dairy, and me and my mates went and stole from one of the other shops. Not many shops in Piopio. Everybody knows everybody. So we went and stole some jewellery from another shop. Anyway, got caught out. So my boyfriend at the time stole something from me and gave it to me. I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. Anyway, we got found out. So the cop came to the school, hauled me in. Mum and Dad were there, and we ended up in front of a family group conference. And again, these are all lessons, man, that I look back on. And there's this whole accountability piece that my parents taught me. You did this. When you get in there, you keep your head high, and whatever they say and whatever the outcome is, you have to wear that.
Yeah.
This is what you have done, and there's going to be a consequence for it. Whatever it is, it's something that you just have to accept. And I think I've kind of, again, it's another lesson I, try and put on to my son. So anyway, from that experience, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the way that the cop dealt with, us at that time. I just went, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. And again, for the service of it.
Yeah.
So when I left school, I knew that was what I wanted to do, but I had to wait until I was 20 to be able to get into police college. So I did 2 years of studying, which I missed out on initially, and then got a late call up maybe about 2 weeks before the course actually started. Anyway, so I ended up in Hamilton, and then I went down to police college for 6 months and did policing for 9 years in Hamilton, and ended up working in youth aid.
Gee, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Seriously, it was one of those, I loved my job. I loved being, again, able to serve. And, there's different situations that kind of stick out in my mind, and it's helping a young girl who felt unsafe, having her live with me for a couple of weeks because there was nowhere to put her. There was no safe place to be able to put her. So she ended up living with me. Helping women out of situations, planning, how you would do that, and then working with young people, which was the kind of the end part of where I ended up within the police, working with 2 community workers, youth workers, and understanding that actually mum was the heartbeat of the whānau, and, working from the inside out. But for me, it was working with the kids, trying to get them to trainings on time, making sure that they had boots and, and then there was the other side of it where you actually had to deal with the offending and all of those things. But it was a space that I felt useful in. So I was there for 9 years before I actually got into media.
Far out. Yeah. I mean, growing up, I didn't like police very much. But I understand now there are lots of great police, another community group, but it's just my experience was as a kid.
Yeah, and so I remember going home one day, I was asked to go back to speak, and so I went back and I was in my uniform and I was downtown, and one of my mates who I went to school with, he ended up in a gang. He was in a gang at the time. When I saw him and he saw me in my uniform, and I went, bro, what's up? Went up. He just stood there and just looked straight through me.
Wow.
And I was looking at him and I was going, oh, well, how you, bro? He just looked at me and he was like, good. but it wasn't a we're familiar look. It was a you're a cop and I don't like you. That was it. There was just this wall that went up. Anyway, it's kind of, oh yeah, cool, whatevs. Left. I remember just feeling really jarred by it because we went through some stuff, man, when we were younger. And yeah, it was really jarring. And then we were might have been my nephew's 21st, and we were just having a couple of drinks, and he was there. I was just in my civvies. And he goes, sis, sorry, bro, I couldn't see you. All I could see was the uniform. He recognised it in himself. But just being able to kind of go back and for me to understand that too from his perspective. So I understand when you say, you didn't have a very good perspective of cops because of the interactions that you had with them, and now that there are some good people. But that just reminded me of that moment with my bro.
Yeah, I spoke to what's our former police commissioner, Costa? Is it Costa? Yeah. I remember speaking to him, and I said, how can we reduce the trauma on children? Because that's what's happening. Well, we know, like my first introduction was when they raided my house as a kid. And they took all our presents away. That was so of course I hated them from that moment. Yeah. Because that's my, but as I grew up, I understood why they took them. But if that's your first introduction to the system and, you don't like or trust the system very much from then on, but it's not the kid's fault.
Totally. And then there's the responsibility on parents, right? And the narratives that are being told as well. Yeah.
It was really out of COVID. I started working alongside. That's where my sort of opinion changed. Yeah, it was funny. One time, as we were helping the police were helping 200 families that needed phones to make contactable, so we could get services and stuff, and that's when it sort of started changing my perception of them. But it was a funny moment that we had. We're helping all the police. It's like our gym was being raided, because there's cop cars everywhere, and inside we had all these people that were on parole. No one's coming out to help us load. I said, "Get your asses out here and help load these parcels." Well, it's just a funny moment. It's just so I remember.
Isn't that part of the healing the trauma part of it though? Yeah, it's doing things like that within community and showing actually. There's some good things that we can all do together as a community that maybe can help pull down some of those barriers. And some barriers for people are legit, man. I totally get that as well. But there's things like that, small things like that we could do. Yeah. Yeah.
What made you get into media from there?
I had a phone call from a mate who was in media at the time, Neil Walker, actually.
We ride bikes together now, me and Neil.
Do you?
Yep.
How is he?
He's doing well. Guys that are going through midlife crises driving motorbikes.
I love it. It's so good.
Meeting at cafes and looking at our bikes.
Hey, did you ever think you were going to be that guy?
No, I didn't. It was funny. A funny moment. We called up all of us old guys. We rode down to a Harley show in the Mount Maunganui, and then we're riding around at night, and we all pulled up to this BP, and that's when the moment hit me. I'm one of those guys. Like one of the guys was playing this loud music, had all this cool sounds in his bike, and I was videoing like how cool this is, and it was listening to this old school like rap music, and all these old guys, and we're just like, trying to relive our youth. That was quite funny.
That guy. I love it. Actually, I think I remember that because Neil was actually posting photos of it. And I was having a little giggle to myself thinking, oh, look at them, eh?
Yeah, we were
those old guys.
Yeah, we met him and at Servo there.
I love Neil. Oh, that's cool. I had met him, before I got into television, I actually did 2 years in radio in Hamilton. And I had taken 6 months leave without pay from the police force to throw everything into the world champs, selection for the world champs. I was studying full-time at the time as well at Waikato University. I wanted to be a teacher. So I was sitting in, as you do, Starbucks, doing some work, and a well-known radio host walked in, Ronnie Phillips, and he was sitting there, and I went to get up to leave, and he kind of waved me over. I knew him but didn't really know him. And he said, "Hey, what are you up to these days?" I, told him, just taking some time out, really trying to focus in on the Silver Ferns and making it to the world champs. He said, "Oh, have you ever thought about radio?" And I went, Don't you like have to have a radio voice or something to do that? And he started laughing and he said, No. He said, "But we're on the lookout actually for a co-host at the moment." And I kind of went, "Oh yeah, cool, whatever." Anyway, that was the end of that. And then I auditioned for the role and was lucky enough to get it. And that's how I actually started getting into media, was through that.
Wow.
I missed out on the world champs, by the way, just saying. Again, another lesson, that I threw everything into it. No regrets, though, because I gave myself every opportunity to make it into the team.
What was the highlight of your netball career?
Highlight was my debut, and my parents were there. And it was in England, and I think my mum had her Tainui Waka tracksuit on. And we had this photo, the three of us together, and my dad just looks so proud. That's my, you talk about standing there singing the national anthem for your country, representing your country, representing those who went before you, your tupuna, who dreamed all of this for you. And it's special, and it is a moment, but actually that debut with having my mum and dad there is something I'll never forget. And I've actually forgotten a lot about my Silver Ferns career, funnily enough, because I don't know what it is. I compartmentalise a whole lot of stuff. So that's my netball career, my touch career that's in there, is my policing career. Like there's a lot of things that I don't know. Once I've done something, I move on to the next thing. But that's the first moment of being incredibly proud to have them by my side and for them to see what was always my dream, to see it come true. And in the UK, community helped fundraise for mum and dad. We didn't have money. People rallied in behind them and managed to, seriously, it was one of the most stressful tours that I've been on. It was my first. I had never been that far in a plane, so that whole thing was an experience. But while I'm going through it, I'm also thinking, how the hell are my mum and dad going to get through Heathrow Airport?
Yeah.
How are they going to end up getting to where they're supposed to get to? And I just worried about them the whole time. I think my mum had been on a boat to the UK that took 3 months to get there when she was 10 years of age. And that's the last time that she had done a trip like that. She'd been to Queenstown with the school, but that was pretty much it. I think they'd maybe been to Australia. I don't even know if they'd been to Australia. They'd done, a few trips in New Zealand, but they'd never been on a trip, anything like that before. So when they first arrived at one of our training games in Crystal Palace, I was just seriously so relieved to see them. But having them there at my debut, super special. And then the second moment of my career was actually when I was given the honour of doing the karanga for our whole New Zealand team. This is at the Commonwealth Games in Melbourne.
Wow.
When we went to New Zealand House, we were invited to go there. And so as a contingent we went, and I was asked to do a karanga. I didn't know anything about te reo, I couldn't speak it. And there was a lot of toing and froing around whether it was my place to do it, I wasn't the right one, I was too young, I didn't have my reo, all of those things. But one woman, Tina Karaitiana, who's a netball stalwart, she gave me the words, I guess she gave me the permission, to be able to do that. I rang my dad straight away. I said, Dad, they want me to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what to say. You know, and he was like my dad is. He goes, well, you can't do it. You don't have your reo. You know, you can't do it. You know, there's got to be somebody else. And so I went back and I said, look, there's got to be somebody else. I can't do it. But it was one of those moments where when it came back again to say, no, you are the right person, it was just, okay, I'm going to do this. And again, one of those moments that I'll never forget, and having the strength and the support of the entire New Zealand team to be able to do something like that. I don't know if they really knew how significant that was for me, that moment. I do know they understood some part of that, and they knew that I was nervous, but that they were there to support me. It was a pretty powerful moment.
Yeah.
You know, so two moments actually that had nothing to do with playing.
Yeah, that look, you know, when you say that look, your dad, the look of pride, your mum and dad, man, I think like when I made my first rep team and the look of the look my dad had, you know, what I'd give to have that look.
Hey.
You know, like, again.
But here's the thing, is that the look we give our kids.
Yeah.
When they do something and they turn to you and they look at you and they are looking for that look that you know, that I know, that so many people know, that so many people don't know. Do we give them that look? Do we spark up for them so that they go, man, even if you don't necessarily have the words and you're not saying it to them, they can see it written all over in that smile, you know? Those are the moments. Those are the things that we can give to our children. If we don't have time, if we don't have money, if we don't have all of those other things, is that reassurance that I'm proud of you and that you're amazing and you can go out into this world and do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
Despite all of my, you know, barriers or the things that I have happened in my life, I want more for you. I want you to know that nothing is impossible. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to be better at giving that look. Sometimes I'm overly competitive, and I mean, he's only under nines, and I'm the coach, and I'm trying my hardest, like to just be that. You know, I'm getting better.
Yeah, but you're doing it for the kids.
Yeah.
Hey, like, you know,
there was
again.
one night, and I caught myself, and I felt shit. You know, he did a good run, and then he dropped the ball, and I was reffing, and it's a part of a tournament, and I'm fucking stressing out. I'm the coach and the ref of all these games. The reason I'm reffing is I don't want someone else to ref and be biased against our team.
Yeah, nice.
So it's like I'm doing all these shuttles, trying to coach, and my son did a really good run, but he dropped the ball. And after the game, and I feel like shit just talking about it. He said, "Dad, did you see my run?" And I said, "Yeah, but you dropped the ball."
Yeah,
and I went, oh, what a dick. You know, I corrected, but he was looking for that look, you say, you know?
Yeah, but you're going to have other opportunities to be able to give him that look.
I've been better since then because I've really recognised.
There you go.
I recognised what a dick. I said to my one, you know, I was just taking out the frustration. It was our first time playing South Auckland teams. We're getting hammered every game. You know? We're from Western. You know, these South Auckland teams, every player's like our best player.
Ever since my boys have been playing, so that's been 3 years, but they've been doing it for years before then because I got a bigger boy and a bigger girl. And they turn up every training twice a week and then on the weekends, super organised. Then we're doing tag together as a team as well. If it wasn't for them, my sons wouldn't be, well, they may be playing, I don't know, but it's just recognising the amount of time, effort and capacity that takes when you're trying to do your own thing, but actually putting back into the kids. And, you know, many of us parents don't have the skills to be able to do league coaching or whatever it is. And so I'm always, again, grateful, appreciate the fact that they've made themselves available to be able to teach my sons the basics in a really safe environment. And what I love about Coach D too is just the lessons that he's kind of imparting on our young people about the hard work.
Yeah.
You know, you don't turn up to training, well, then you've got to sit on the bench, wanting to all of them to grow, putting the kids in different leadership positions so that they understand what's required of them. Like all of those lessons, man, they're not coming from me as a parent or from Dean as their father. They're actually coming from somebody outside. And 9 times out of 10, that's where the message actually lands because they're not listening to me because all I do is just like, they tune out now, my sons, to my voice. Hey, I can ask them 3 times to do something, or I can give them this amazing, beautiful, articulate lesson in leadership and my experiences and all of that. And they look at me and they're like, what? Hey, go straight over, not even interested in listening to me. Yet Coach D can say something in 10 seconds that is so powerful and they're like, you can see the penny drop. And they go,
Yeah, it was funny because we
that
played,
impact.
Yeah, it's so true. We played Motherhood, and the coach came and said, "Oh, please come get a photo with our kids." And I said a few words, about hard work and consistency, all these things. And my boy, he goes, "Why is Dad talking to us?"
Yeah, I know. So what is he doing?
I say, "Well, believe it or not, people look up to me." Something.
I know. They don't care, do they?
Yeah, but it's cool, man. And so you went into radio.
I loved radio for 2 years. Did breakfast radio, classic hits, and then got a phone call one day from Neil Waka. I had met him. I went up to Auckland and I'd done an interview with him.
Yeah.
Anyway, he rang me one day because he was reading sport for the news. So he rang me and he said, "Oh, sis, there's a role that's going here in the sports news department and wondered whether you'd be interested." And I was kind of like, I've always had this attitude of, if you don't give things a go, how do you know what you're good at?
Yeah.
It's all good to sit on the sidelines and critique and go, could I, should I, not sure. But if you get in there and do it, at least then you can have an opinion about it. At least then you can test yourself. And again, know what you're good or not good at. So I went, I haven't thought about it, but yeah, I'm in. I'll give it a go. So again, I had went in and did the interview with the boss at the time and had to go in and they put me on camera and then I had to read the audio cue, all of those sorts of things. And then when he rang me, he said, "I was ringing to tell you got the job." And I said, "Holy shit. Are you bullshitting me?" And he goes, "Oh, no, you've got the job." And, he said a few things and I was like, wow. So that's how I ended up in telly. And it was interesting. I was really lucky that I, again, had all this experience and they were all actually men that were around me that were so encouraging and would always help. Paul Moore was one of those guys, Martin Tasker. They were just always there to help. They could see I was struggling at different times. But yeah, always willing to give me opportunity. And man, again, it was a learning curve, but I loved it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was the start of my kind of television journey. But before that, actually, I'd done some commentary for netball when netball was with TVNZ. I could see my career was coming towards the end, and I thought, what else could I do? And so I went to the executive producer, and I was like, look, I'd love to be able to do some netball stuff just at any time,
Yeah.
And that was sink or swim. You don't really get too many directions. You're going to be standing here in front of the camera, and then you've got to go and throw to this bit, and then this bit, and this bit. And I'm like, oh, my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. Anyway, I managed to do okay. And again, loved the fact that I was doing something that involved a sport that I loved. And so, yeah, that opportunity, well, I kind of created that opportunity for myself. And then I was in TV obviously for a while, and then I shifted across to TVNZ7, which was still within the TVNZ building, but it was a new news service. And so I went across to that for 2 years, and then that was coming to an end. The funding wasn't being renewed the following year.
Yep.
And that's when I decided, right, I'm not going to let, kind of this place dictate my next step. And then that's when I went in to learn te reo Māori full time. But lucky and fortunate enough that I was able to go back into sport and do weekend jobs. So that's how I was basically paying the bills and putting food on the table.
Full immersion.
Yeah. 5 days, like going back to school, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the afternoon.
Is that the best way to learn it, you reckon?
That's what I've been told. Stacey Morrison, who you'll know, real advocate, super mama, super woman, super everything. That was one of the things she said to me was around, total immersion is the way to do it. And through that whole journey, her and her husband, Scotty, supported me through it. I'd go over to their place, sit there with her children that were fluent in te reo, and they'd be looking at me kind of going, wow, she doesn't even know what that word means. You can see it, kids, honest as. But what they showed me, and without explicitly telling me, was that actually being around the kids, I could pull my barriers down a little bit, whereas when you're in front, and anybody who's learnt a language, my experience te reo Māori is there's a wall that goes up because there's a whole lot of trauma that comes in with what you're doing. Why don't I know my reo? And then you think back about what history has done in terms of trying to erase our reo. And so there's all of that stuff, and that's already there. And then we're actually, as an adult, trying to learn this new skill and then trying to communicate with other adults who are proficient in the language. There's this whole shame thing that starts to come out. So what they were showing me, again, without explicitly telling me this, was actually being around the kids was just a way to remove that barrier, and that the kids will just talk to you. You can say whatever you like. They don't necessarily think it's dumb. They're just, kind of responding to you. So it was amazing that I was there, bedtime with these kids. Whenever I had, the space and opportunity to be able to go in, then I would go and spend some time with the kids, reading a reo Māori book to them. But yeah, that was hard, man. And, I've had an international sporting career up until that point. I had been a cop for 9 years, but I can tell you hand on heart that was one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Wow.
Ever done as an adult, because you feel dumb every single day that you turn up in that classroom. But not only that, it's that trauma, past trauma, that is actually coming with you, but you don't understand it at the time. And it is that whole, why don't I know my language? I'm here. Shouldn't this all feel natural and easy? But it's not. It doesn't feel that way. So there's all of those sorts of things that you were actually taking into the classroom with you. And what I didn't realise for the first 3 months is every single in the classroom felt that way. We all had our barriers up. We were all feeling, exposed. And it wasn't until one of the girls in our class actually broke down and went, oh my God, I'm really, really struggling. And you could feel this collective sigh of relief in the whole class go, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel. And it was a moment that kind of changed the way we all started interacting. We all started being a little bit more honest about where we were in our journey and how we were feeling. And yeah, like I say, I'm not going to lie, it was the hardest thing I've done, but the most rewarding, the most amazing outcome, more than I could ever have dreamed of. I've still got, my reo, so I went through maybe 12 years ago. So man, I was on this trajectory. I did my 1 year, and then I went in and did 2 more years at te whānau Aotearoa, and my reo was just flowing the whole time. And then I had my babies, and everything kind of came to a bit of a halt. I wasn't going to any classes. I was speaking reo to my boys. So ever since I was carrying them, I was speaking reo to them when they were born, speaking reo. And for the first couple of years of their life, I was only speaking te reo. But it was easy because it was just instructional. There wasn't, full-on conversations where they're coming back and forth about deep philosophical things that you don't have the words or the sentence construction to be able to communicate that to them. And so probably for the last couple of years, there's been both languages for me, English and te reo Māori, because I simply don't have the depth, and the want is there to continue to learn. But again, it's just, everything's a balancing act, trying to get through life, earn money, all of those things. And, I'm doing some bits and pieces online to try and improve my reo. But if I go back, even where I am now, I can converse in conversations. I can understand, not at a high level, but I can understand conversations that are being had as well. When you're sitting there in a hui and you're listening to something and they're speaking fully in te reo Māori, it's pretty cool that I can understand all of this, because there was once upon a time when I sat in a room and I couldn't understand a word.
Yeah, I remember going to one at something and everyone was speaking te reo. I was the only one, and I felt, oh man, it's cool. Yeah. But man, I felt, what am I doing here?
Yeah, and there's that shame piece that runs alongside that, right? About why don't I know my reo? Why don't I have it? And that's understanding historically what happened to us and to our reo. But for me, at what point was I going to go, well, actually, that happened, but this is me taking ownership.
Yeah.
This is me giving my sons an opportunity that I never had, which is why they're in a kura.
Yeah.
So they can have it, constantly around them. They understand who they are, where they come from. And they can walk in both worlds. Yeah. Because, I'm Māori, Pākehā, my husband's Pākehā. And so they have to be proud of who they are, all of it, every single bit of it. Yeah. But it's transformative, learning my reo and being able to walk in spaces, again, where I don't put my head down because I don't want to look eye to eye with somebody in case they go, oh, kia ora e te tuahine pehe ana koe. And me go, kia ora, and keep walking, because I don't understand. Being able to say, actually, in Māori, kare ai te mohi o ki tō kōrero. I don't understand what you're saying. Even being able to say that with the opportunity of the other person going, okay, so she doesn't understand, maybe I just have to dial it down, or maybe use some Pākehā kupu, English words in there. Having the ability to do that,
I think I need to do full immersion.
Full immersion's the way to go. Then it's hard, and it's that balance, because you've got 9 to 3, and it's a full-on commitment, and you've still got learning to do outside of that. But you find the way to do it. Like I would record myself. I got a little dictaphone, and I would record the words that I learnt that day. I would actually record them. So tepu, table, and I would do that. And I would, because I was in my car and I had to drive there and I had to drive back, whether I was driving home or wherever, but I spent a bit of time in my car. And so I would play it so that at least I was using my time wisely.
Yeah.
And I did that it took me a few months to figure that out, but I did that for the rest of the time. If I had a koho, if I had to stand and speak, and I would write it down. And again, it was writing it in English and then translating it to te reo Māori, hoping it was okay. A lot of the time I'd flick my stuff off to Scotty Morrison and go, is this right? And what I loved about, he wouldn't rewrite it. He'd just go, yeah, that's cool. Maybe just change that word, or that you got to change those two things around. And then I would record myself. I'd still practice it, but I would use the time that I had, whether it was, driving somewhere. I mean, now you can have, throw them on your phone and you can listen to it if you're walking anywhere. And it's just finding the ways that work for you, sticking things up in the house. I remember Scotty saying that to me, label everything, and then when you know the word for it, take it off, because you don't want to get lazy because you still got other words to learn. So you just take it off and then you just continue to keep, learning those other words. So there's different things that you can do. Go and sit in a cafe with a mate. Me and my mate, we're talking te reo Māori only, and man, I reckon we got 2 different stories that we were talking about because we didn't understand what we were doing. But again, we were just trying to do the best that we could with the resources that we had.
Yeah.
And, meeting up with mates, whether it was after our sessions or on a Saturday afternoon, and then having a few drinks, and then, sitting around, and then all of a sudden we're all trying to speak te reo Māori because, everything's gone after a few drinks. Whatever works for you. It's just trying to figure out what are those tools, what are the different things that can help in that journey. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
it is. It's life-changing.
Yeah.
It really is. And, I talk about this, how you feel shut out of something, a piece of you that, you want to be part of that, and that is part of you. But that reo unlocks so many different things, having it. I'm not saying it's the be-all and end-all, of course not. But it does unlock a lot of things.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you can, then that's the way I would go.
I remember Aotearoa was on here, and we were having the same conversation.
Yeah.
I've just got if he messages me, he asks me, have you started yet? Every time he messages me, have you started yet? Not yet, bro. Soon. When did you meet Dean? Did you see Dean's episode on here?
Oh, I haven't watched.
Talked about meeting you.
Yeah. I mean, I did see that. I saw that that highlight. Yeah. I mean, he's pretty bang on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the chemistry that was there in the first moment, although he does talk about some light. And it was so funny because after the podcast, and I saw that, I said, bro, that light was the exit sign. Because there ain't no halo around this. I'm telling you now. But yeah, it was pretty crazy how our relationship started. And I knew really early on that there was something special about him, and that at some point the world would understand the power of him. And I'm loving it. I'm loving his journey, where he's at the moment. And I'm quite just enjoying being, Dean's wife and sitting in the background and, letting him have his moment, because the work that he's doing is really important. Yeah. And I'm so proud that people get to see that. Yeah. To get to see what I see every day in him. And, he is a saint, because anybody that can live with me, because it's not been easy for us. But yeah, I'm so proud of him and the work that he does. He's got a huge capacity for love, huge capacity for it. I just have to be there to make sure that that capacity doesn't overtake him in a way. Because, as you know, man, this work's hard. The work that you do is hard. It requires a certain kind of person to be able to do it, because you are with somebody's trauma and helping them navigate through that. So you're taking on some of that. So that's where I see my job for him, is to go, okay, hang on, what are you doing for yourself? Okay, no, because we need you for us. I know there's people who need you, and I get that, but if you're not okay, we're not okay, and therefore you can't help other people if you're not okay. So I'm very conscious of that, and I will guard that for him, because I know he will just keep giving and giving and giving. And I understand that, and I understand why, and I see the amazing kind of fruits of that. But I need my husband around I need him to be healthy and alive, and I need him to be healthy and alive for us, for me, for his children, first and foremost, and then he can be healthy for everybody else. And that's not always easy, to have those conversations and kind of go, no, you need to pull back here. We need you. We actually need you. But we also have to understand that there are times where we can't have him, that there's work that he has to do, and that's cool, and that's okay. But he too needs to look after himself, fill his cup back up to make sure that he's functioning as best as he possibly can.
Yeah.
And he might not necessarily think that anything's going on, but actually once you get into a conversation, it's like, oh yeah, actually that actually did have a huge impact on me. Actually, maybe I do need to do some work, on this. We're really lucky to have a relationship like that, but a lot of that comes down to him and his openness and his continual desire for us to be well together, to continue the communication. Because I can tell you now, I was never somebody that communicated.
Oh, really?
I would shut down all the time.
Yeah.
Conversation come up, no, I'm not interested, I'm busy, I'm tired, all of these things, excuses. Because surface is okay, but once you start to scratch a little bit deeper, that's when that's hard, being exposed, for some of the feelings or whatever actions. But he continued to pursue that. He was patient with me, encouraging of me, until eventually, really I had no option but to open myself up to deeper conversations with him. And as a result of that, we are fortunate to have a conversation where, yes, you can have, sometimes it's hard, but it's about us and being better together. It's about wanting the best for each other and the different things that we choose to do. Because he's had to put up with me.
It was crazy. he rang me up before the podcast, but and I said, I'm just with your wife. He goes, oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's not why I'm calling.
And that's what I love actually about us. Now, he's doing his thing and he's deep in it and he loves it, and I can see that lights him up.
How's life now, sis?
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, so good, man. Seriously. I'm doing things that I never thought that I could do. I don't know. I'm in it. I'm enjoying every single moment and feeling grateful to be in the position that I'm in. And what I've also really enjoyed is connecting in with people too. I've been very independent my entire life. I don't want to rely on anybody. I do what I want to do. I've got to figure out how do I make, an income for myself, look after myself, all of these things. And so I've never really had any time, and when I say time, time, but also I've never found it important to the things that I've been doing, is to actually have these really strong relationships. I've got good mates. I don't have many mates, but I can count on one hand who I could call at any time if anything had happened, and they would be at my doorstep in a flash. I can count that on one hand. And I'm enjoying this time to actually connect in with girlfriends, sit and talk for 2 hours, not feel exhausted or feel like I've got to check my phone because, I've got to, this is happening, I've got to prepare for this or whatever. Actually being present in that two hours and being able to connect. Like that, man, brings me so much joy. But again, I'm really aware of how much of a privilege it is to be able to have that time to do it as well. And I've missed that. So actually being able to do that now is like, man, this is cool. Like simple things, man, sitting and having a conversation, laughing, just having that time to do that when I had no capacity for any of that for the past 6 or so years.
So you're going back to the good old days.
Yeah.
So I spoke about on the last podcast. I wish And it was actually from my favourite show, The Office. It was. I wish that. I wish someone would tell you you're in the good old days before they pass.
Yeah.
You know, you've gone back to those things.
I have.
So this last question, and I already know the answer, but it'd be cool to hear you talk about it more. Last question I ask everyone is, what's your why? What keeps you going? You've spoken about your children already.
Yeah, that's my why.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. It's my babies. That's why I do what I do. I do it so that they know, they can see the pathway forward. My mother's already done that. There's a different way of doing things. And I want them to have the head start that I never had. And my parents tried everything that they could to give me the best head start, right? And it was a wonderful head start. I knew I was loved. There wasn't necessarily all of the financial backing at all, but I knew I was loved, and they put me out into the world saying, you know, go for it. I want that for my sons, but I also want the financial platform for them to be able to move forward as well, and for their children, and then for their children as well. So there is, you know, no doubt, our 4 babies, they are my why, and they will continue to be my why.
Yeah, it's powerful. Thank you so much, sis.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate this conversation, man. If you made it this far, thank you so much for the support. It really does mean so much to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and comment on our videos, and share this out. These stories are so inspiring, and they need to be heard by everyone. Thank you so much, team.